We've talked about dreams under management, goals under management, and now it's time for humans under management. More specifically, the virtual Humans Under Management Conference happening on the 8th of September with incredible speakers from around the world. I'm thrilled to be part of this event for those seeking better client outcomes, which, as a listener of the Innovating Advice Show, I know includes you, and am impressed by how affordable this event is for advisors and planners everywhere. We're talking about the cost of a dinner. These super early bird tickets have sold out, but hop on now to grab an early bird ticket at innovatingadvice.com/HUM for Humans Under Management.
The roles that they adopt are typically for women are the administration roles. And so when I talk about trying to get it to be 50-50, that's actually a massive, much bigger problem in the advisor role. I do feel that we need to actively, positively encourage it. And that also then comes in with everything else about diversity. We need to actively make decisions that embrace and improve our diversity and our inclusion. And so for me, do I choose to have an all-female business? Maybe now I do.
Welcome to episode 47 of the Innovating Advice Show. I'm joined by Gretchen Betts, Managing Director at Magenta Financial Planning in the UK, which has a team of all women. In this episode, Gretchen shares how and why the name Magenta and its fantastic name-inspired branding came to be. We chat about building a team of all women, how to bring more women into the profession and into client-facing roles, how Gretchen acquired the skills and support structure to succeed as a managing director, and the things Magenta outsources to make sure their time and energy is spent where it's most effective. And we wrap up by chatting about Gretchen's love of ceramics and crafting, and her Persian cat Basil, who has 21,000 followers on Twitter. Links, show notes, and timestamps at innovatingadvice.com or directly through the link below. You're listening to the Innovating Advice Show, and I'm your host, Kate Holmes, bringing you the global pulse on financial services innovation, featuring financial planners, financial advisors, and related professionals from all corners of the globe. Let's dive in. Hi, Gretchen. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Kate. Thanks for having me.
It's a delight to have you here. So I want to start by talking about your company. So you are the managing director of Magenta Financial Planning. And I've told you before, I remember the first time I saw Magenta's website, that color just brings so much happiness, so much joy. I remember as a kid, between like magenta and fuchsia, they were definitely my favorite colors. I love being colorful. But talk with us about Magenta Financial Planning. You started it, we're coming up on 4 years ago with Julie Lord, but where did the name Magenta come from?
Yeah, so you're right. Magenta will be 4 years old in September. It's flown by and been a really busy time. But I guess the main question about where did we pick that color and that name from is, I guess we started to brainstorm about what we wanted to call this new company we were starting. We wanted something that wasn't too complex and that was easy to say, although still some people somehow managed to not say it correctly, but easy to say, and something that kind of meant something to us and to the team who work with us. So we spent quite a lot of time debating what that might be, and things of like whether it could be a combination of our names or how we might answer the phone if we were called that name, and finally agreed on Magenta. And the reason why I guess we chose that is because I was doing some research and came across some information about the psychology of the color magenta. And we found that we really felt that it represented us and what we do as financial planners. So kind of the psychology behind it is about one of universal harmony and emotional balance. And they also use words like it's spiritual yet practical, and it encourages common sense and a balanced outlook on life. So we also like the fact that it's quite a passionate colour. It's got energy of like red in it, but it's also got that kind of quiet energy of violet and all of those things interplaying. So I guess for us, it just really rang true, and it was and just we just went for it, and we love it, and we're really pleased that we chose that as the name 4 years ago.
Yeah, well, like you said, it is easy to remember.
Yeah, we like the fact that we don't have to say the whole name of the company anymore. We don't have to say Magenta Financial Planning. It's if I answer the phone and I say it's Gretchen at Magenta, then they know who I am. I don't need to say the whole thing, so it's great. It's working really well for us. So when we then chose the name, and then we went to our graphic design team and said we need a logo, they were like, well, clearly it has to be Magenta. So but it kind of talks for itself, doesn't it? So thankfully a lot of the branding has kind of just followed suit from there. There's a lot of ease of kind of, I guess our brand guidelines have been relatively easy to design from that.
Well, and I love that. Like, I love the simplicity of it. I love that it's just straightforward. I love how unique it is. So many companies, like you said, are either named after the people or the place or something. And I haven't seen another company, especially in financial planning, that's really just kind of named after a color. And then you get that brilliance of, you can just have a one-word company name. That's kind of like the dream for so many people now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I guess as well, I'd worked everywhere I'd worked before had been very corporate and very blue. And so this is the kind of polar opposite, which has been quite important when building that brand as well. For all of those reasons, it's fantastic that now everyone has started to recognize that.
I love a lot of the language on Magenta's website. And one of the things that really stood out to me as I was, kind of wrapping my head around Magenta's philosophy and mixed with your branding and just who you are as people, you've got this great line of, we inspire people to pursue their passions and give people permission to spend. And it's that second half that I was just like, yes, like that's really embracing just the much more important part, isn't it? It's and you and I were chatting before about this idea that the financial planners are so often forward looking, but it is about enjoying life now and living life now. And that involves spending now.
Yeah, I mean, we talked earlier that really rings true for me. I think we can be skewed way too much about planning, or maybe we're skewed in the future because we use all these tools to forecast the future and make assumptions and make sure it'll all be okay. But maybe sometimes we forget, that actually how we find that balance and encourage people to live the best life within, I guess, maybe it's about setting boundaries, but live the best life now and hopefully the best life in the future with some safe boundaries. But I mean, so our tagline is planning with passion, and I think that's one thing that we want to always put forward, is that whatever you do, whatever we do, we want to be passionate about our job. We want to be passionate about our lives and our family, and we want our clients to know that we're there to help them pursue the things that they are passionate in, and and that is absolutely different for everyone. So as we know, one size doesn't fit all, and everyone will have a different approach to what those things are. But I think a lot of what we want to do is make sure we encourage people to make sure they've got a good, well-rounded focused on financial well-being as well, so that they know that they've got those things in place to make sure that they are safe and secure. Security and happiness is also kind of key words we use. I think everyone really wants to know that they're secure, but that also that doesn't come at the detriment to to happiness and being able to pursue the things you really want to do. So yeah, that's kind of, I'm pleased that message comes across from the website. We had that all revamped last year, and I think we worked really hard to make sure as our message matures and as our message becomes more defined, I guess, because when you start a company, you think some words work really well, and then you realize actually they're just not really the way I talk or the way that I can put this across, And so I think those things have certainly developed and matured as we've grown and gotten used to how we can be with clients and how we talk as Magenta.
Yeah. And speaking of how you've grown, so there are 7 humans at Magenta. And I say that because there's also one fluffy motivator, which we'll chat about in a bit. So 7 humans and a fantastic cat. And they are all, well, the cat's a male, but all of the humans are women. Was that intentional when you and Julie set up Magenta?
Yeah, so we're an all female team. I wouldn't say it was intentional, but I think the fact is that having 2 female planners naturally has attracted more females to apply for jobs. It also naturally attracts more female clients, and we've definitely found that from where we used to work to Magenta, kind of ratio of female clients is a lot higher for us than it was before. And I think, for like applicants for jobs, although, we don't have, it's a small company, so the job, the turnover and the amount of jobs we have is not that high, but the applicants certainly tend to be majority female, just because I think they see that as an attractive place and a safe home that they could maybe come to better their career or develop. So it's not intentional, but then also I'm very, very passionate about trying to develop more women to be financial planners, but also more women to take financial advice. Right. I do believe that I think that we have to develop a profession that kind of reflects our society. Now, clearly, that's a massive question right now. There's loads of debate going on right now, and we've got the Black Lives Matters movement and things that we really need to think about. But from the thing that I can think about is that our latest census in the UK was that we are 50-50 split between men and women, right. But my profession is only 17% women. Wow. And maybe not even that in advising roles, which I think that I'm trying to push. So when I talk about this at events and stuff, it's easy to say we've got a good rota of male, female in our business, but actually they haven't in planning roles, because right. The roles that they adopt are typically for women are the administration roles. And so when I talk about trying to get it to be 50-50, that's actually a much bigger problem in the advisor sector, in the advisor role. And I do feel that we need to actively, positively encourage it. And that also then comes in with everything else about diversity. We can't, we need to actively make decisions that embrace and I guess improve our diversity and our inclusion. And so for me, do I choose to have an all-female business? Maybe now I do. Maybe now I'm doing my bit to raise that percentage in our profession. Yeah. I think it's really important. And who knows, the next planner we take on, we will have to be having that debate about whether that person is male or female. I don't know how that will look right now.
And then what if you bring, like you're saying, racial diversity into it?
Yeah.
Because I think your team is all white now. So as you look, and I don't think the UK is quite as diverse. I think it's still predominantly white there.
I think so our lack of racial diversity in our team is just reflective of where we are more than anything. And certainly it's not we've got all of the equality and diversity things in place to make sure that certainly would not be the issue at all. It's just that where I live and where we are, that's our, as you say, we're just not quite so diverse. I think it was in Cardiff, which is not far away, then that would and should be different. So yeah, I think there's a whole load of questions there to be sort of. And one of the reasons why I'm so actively involved in Next Gen, I guess, is because they are making a stand towards things like this. You know, they're deliberately saying that they won't talk on panels or won't talk at conferences where diversity and inclusion is not that we're not represented. And that, you know, even to the point of going until we're 50-50 represented on stage. Now that's easy for like male and female. It's not easy, but I mean, it's something that we're trying to break down. But when we come to Black or other, I guess, other racial issues that we've got, that we're far away from that right now. So far away from that right now, which is wrong.
It is.
That's where we are.
As we are all over the world, you know, this, and it's good to see this conversation continuing. It is not a new conversation by any means. I mean, I've been a part of the conversation for, you know, probably the last 10 years in the US, and it's good to see the conversation growing around the world. And I think, you know, one of the things that's really great about what you and Julia have built at Magenta and continue to build is you are then setting that example. So even if we just focus on, you know, attracting women to the profession, you know, I remember coming in and looking around, and I remember the first conference I went to, and it was honestly, I want to say 90% white men over the age of 50. And I was 21 at the time, you know, and I looked around, I was like, I'm not sure this is where I should be. So having companies like Magenta, where it's like, look, you can be a successful woman. You don't just have to be in a support role. You can actually own a successful, super fun, colorful, great business and build something amazing.
So I spoke at an event at the start of the year, and my topic, rightly or wrongly, I probably should have chosen a different topic, but I chose to talk about why it was so important to encourage more women to financial planning and to advisor roles, and try and encourage more women to take advice. And a lot of that for me is about the fact that the shift in power of wealth is changing. So women are going to have more wealth in their pocket, and they're going to need advice. And that is shifting for the first time in the UK, certainly from men to women. You know, statistics say that, you know, by 2020, 60% of the wealth will be in women's hands. That's never been that way before, but that's where they're predicting it will go. So it's really, really important that this conversation's had. And I've had that experience the same as you, where you go to an event and I walk in. So what I find intriguing is we walk in the room and we clock that we are one of the minority.
Yeah, instantly.
Yeah. Instantly. So I can't imagine what it's like if therefore you're a Black woman, because that would be even worse. But I can't comment on that because I'm not a Black woman. I'm a white woman. So I can only comment on what I know, which is I'm still in the minority when you walk into that room. So I guess the point of the conversation when I was there was, have you looked around today? So the audience was 90% male and the majority over 50. So I asked them all, you know, when they walked in the room, how would they have felt if they felt like they were that minority? So to just be a little bit more aware of how it feels. And that's really, you know, that was one of my messages. But unfortunately, it was counteracted with the usual situation where, which has also been unfortunately escalated by the Me Too movement, where they then all said, well, if you're saying that we should therefore be more aware of you and make you more welcome, we're then fighting against the Me Too movement where, you know, I might get accused of something. And this frustrates me so much, because if you're not doing anything wrong, there's not going to be a problem, which I think was my answer on stage at the time.
Just behave appropriately.
just treating you like you would your other colleague. And so it's a very interesting debate to have. I think the reality is that it will only change as our generation shifts. So as we become the more mature advisors, as we become the ones who are in those roles, and eventually most of these people who have an issue with it will move on. And I think you're right. All we can do is set a tone, be a role model, and try to encourage people who might not have considered this as a career because they see it as numbers or not something that they could be good at, when we all know actually that financial planning is about relationships and empathy and getting on with people. And
Yeah.
those things women do really, really well. And I just think they don't really know that that's what financial planning can be about.
Well, and like you
So
said, attracting that to clients as well, because clients can be intimidated. And you mentioned, you have more women clients now because they see this as a welcoming place to come. And, shifting gears a little bit. So you've had a lot of experience in the industry. You talked about, all the stuff that you picked up along the way, wanting to be involved in everything. And it is a big step from, a lot of the women that are in those support roles moving into, you're a managing director of your company now. So what training or resources have been most valuable to you in upskilling yourself and being able to step into that role?
yeah, I guess, I mean, when I look back on it, I think all you can do is, I guess, absorb as much as possible from around you in the business that you're working in. Broaden your knowledge by, I guess, trying to get involved in everything. I mean, there's a lot of people who say, say yes and then worry about how to do it later. Then that's definitely the approach early on that I had to take. And been amazing that I've had a huge amount of support from my family as well. And my dad has been a great business mentor as I've gone through it. Then also other people that have mentored me, other managers that I worked for or people that I got to know, and certainly Julie in the mix. But when I think about support networks now, I guess there are a couple of things. I'm a member of most of the financial professional groups around. So CISI in the UK is a major one, and the CII, I've been a member of them for a couple of years, for most of my career. But the CISI, I also became the president of the South Wales branch a couple of years ago. And then I've recently resigned from that. But those 2 years was major for me from a point of view of, I guess, getting to know more people in our profession, spreading my wings a little bit more, getting to be more involved in things, and people, I guess, almost sharing knowledge, that type of thing. And then Next Gen is a really big thing here in the UK, especially for, I guess, young planners or young leaders. So I joined them pretty much as soon as I set up Magenta. And a lot of those people that now are kind of leading Next Gen, we kind of have grown up through that together. So we've all been moved to managing director roles, and we've all kind of, spread our wings further and further, and we've all got the same challenges. So I've got a whole network of people who half the time I could just phone and they'd be like, oh God, I can't believe you said that. Something like that happened here this week as well. And even with lockdown, we've all had these periods where we've had the same challenges and the same points that we've got to with our teams, for example, communication, with motivation, all of those things. We're all been going through together. And so for me, just having this wide network all over the UK of people who are in the same boat as me is pretty amazing. And I don't think I get that anywhere else, to be honest. So that being founded and Next Gen being founded was great for me. It really worked.
That's fantastic. And Gretchen, I have to give you a shout out. We recently had the Global Commute, which I know a lot of listeners tuned into, and that was 24 hours straight. And you did an extreme crafting challenge, and it was super fun to watch you. And you came up with 24 different crafting projects over those 24 hours. You stayed awake and you did all kinds of stuff, from painting portraits to crochet to lino prints, popsicle animals, upcycled candle holders, watercolor. Unbelievable. And I know you've got that artistic background, but it was just super, super cool to see you do that, raising money for charity, for CF Warriors and the Stroke Association. And it's also one of those great examples of, that is your love and your passion. And even though you've got financial planning now, you found a way to bring the two together.
Yeah, I'm incredibly lucky that I still love doing anything. So ceramics was the one thing I chose for my degree, but I've always loved doing anything. So it's sewing, I was taught to knit by my gran, I was taught to sew by my mum. I've taught myself different things. I love painting, and I've really revisited that in lockdown, and it's been, I guess, a revelation for me of lockdown is actually, those things I need to carve out more time for. So, all of us, I think, have had like that kind of moment where it's gone, actually, I do need to slow down a bit. Lockdown has forced us to. Certainly here, we all feel like that. In the UK, we've all kind of gone, right, hang on, let's have a bit of a reflection time. And the 24-hour commute was so much fun. When Adam said that they were doing it, I said, I really want to get involved, but I don't really know. I'm not really up for a cycling challenge, and I'm not really up for, throwing a tire around. So what am I going to do? And then I thought I could do something crafting. And then I thought, but it'd have to be pretty extreme, because I do that, I could do that all day on a Saturday and on a normal circumstances. So it needs to be something pretty extreme. So that's how we kind of came to the 24 hours. And I wanted to show, I guess, a multidisciplined crafting approach, which I think the 24 things did. And I had so much fun. It was great to kind of create things. Some things for kids, some things for people, adults, some birthday things, some just things that I enjoyed making. And I'm so proud that it raised, a really nice amount of money for charity. And also it meant that I got to see like all these people across the world that were talking about financial planning, which there's no way I would have stayed up the 24 hours had I not been doing the challenge. So it was really something quite special to be involved in, and I heard so many great people talking as well. So it's really fun.
Yes. And I've linked to your Twitter because I know you posted everything there, and it was fun to follow you. And I went back and looked at a lot of them, so people can peek on there and see what you've posted. And I want to make sure one of the things we chat about is I really like that Magenta outsources a lot. And this is really important in terms of, a lot of people like to maintain control over everything and try to be the expert in everything. But you guys have really taken, I feel like it's a much more practical approach and saying, no, there are experts out there that do these things. Let's outsource to those experts. So can you share a little bit about that?
It was a very active decision when we first started Magenta. The reality is that I do think to be a really excellent financial planner and to be able to be focused and passionate about what you're doing, you have to rely on other people to support you in the bits that you cannot keep on top of. And so we outsource almost all of our compliance is outsourced. So I rely quite heavily on that. And then all of our investment management is outsourced as well. We have an investment committee where we make some decisions, but other than that, and we have an overall control over it. But other than that, everything is outsourced. We're starting to outsource some power planning, which I think is important, because that is something that we've got a challenge line with, kind of technical, but also ability to write. Just ability to write well is something that takes time. And so if you can outsource some of that as a specialism, that's great as well.
So what are some of the benefits? Like, what does freeing up that time then allow you to do within the business?
Okay. So I think it gives you time to think about marketing. So I've got a bit of a time to think about marketing, time to think about, I guess, social media, but also just bigger picture thinking, because I think so much of being a business leader is about having the brain space to envisage what's next, envisage what's next in the path, also deal with clients and just make sure they're happy. But yeah, that hopefully is ticking along. But how are you going to push this business forward? How are you going to innovate? What technology you might be able to adopt? What things you might want to do in your marketing, social media, etc. And I think those creative things take a lot of time to think about and how they'll be adaptable in your business, whether they're right for your business. And also people management, I guess. There's an element of that in the business, isn't there? So I've got enough people now to need to worry about them as well. So that gives me time to make sure they're all happy and on track. A happy team makes happy clients. So that's part of what we need to do as well. So I think anything that kind of, I guess, doesn't float your boat. I'm not like, I want to tick all the boxes for compliance and I want to tick all the boxes for the investments, but that's not, where my passion lies. And there are plenty of people that it is where their passion lies. So you need to make sure someone's doing that and you're doing the things that you really, really are good at.
So do you do all of your marketing and social media in-house?
Nope, we also outsource some of that. I guess the main theme and message is definitely an in-house message. So that's a lot about Julie and I and our kind of messaging, what the as you said from the website, but the social media is a kind of consistent message. We have themes that we stick to, and sometimes we change that, and sometimes we have campaigns running, but we will think about all of that, but then it's actually physically done by an outsourced team.
But what I'm hearing a lot of is that making sure that you are constantly building the business and growing and innovating and having something that's going to be there for the long term, and making sure that you never find yourself in a stagnant position where you are so overwhelmed with the investments and the compliance and all the day-to-day things that you look around and you're like, oh, wait, this business isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, we've always said, like, you can't sit still. So we were so lucky that our first year we were profitable and we made money and the business was running, but we could have just stayed like that. We could have, and last year we could have just said, okay, this is going pretty well. But, we still want to set a target, we still want to push ourselves, and we still want to be, moving that business forward. And, we spend a lot of time, I guess another thing it releases my time for is kind of thinking about whether we want to apply for awards or we want to go down that route, because that is a route we've taken where we've tried to get, for example, in the New Muller Advisor Top 100. We've been in that for 3 years. We've won certain awards, and those things take time. They take effort to put together your application and put together all your research and be part of the interview. And we do see that as value. We have feedback from clients that they see that as a real validation of our ability and I guess comparison to other advisors in the UK. So it's something that has worked really well for us, and we've had people come to us because of the fact that they know that we've won an award. So we see that as a positive thing, and that gives me time to do stuff like that as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Gretchen, I love that you and Julie and what you're building at Magenta, like I said, is just setting such a great example to other women in the profession of what's possible, creating that welcoming environment, that fantastic branding. And before I let you go, it would not be a complete conversation without chatting about your amazing Persian cat.
Okay, yeah. So anyone who checks me out on Twitter will also see that I have a Persian cat. He's a rescue that I got about 6 years ago now. I didn't choose him because there's a Persian, which obviously is one of the things that everyone loves, that squished face, but he was just a real grumpy cat in the cat's protection, and he hissed at me and he was really not very pleasant. But I felt there was something. So I brought him home, and he then hid from me for 4 months behind the sofa. And it took a long time to get him to be the cat that he is now. But I mean, his just like opened my eyes to like a whole new world out there for people who love cats on Twitter. So, it's got a massive following on Twitter, and I've also met people like all over the world. Like I sadly, I had a trip planned to the US in October, and part of that was about meeting up with some amazing people that I've met through the crazy land of cat Twitter. And I've met people in Japan, I've met people in Canada, I've met people in London, and I always have such great fun with everyone that I meet through it. And yes, he also features on Magenta's website as that kind of fluffy motivator. We're all big cat fans, the whole team, and he was always just a nice character to have on there to add some warmth, I guess, to our website. And it's amazing how many people, especially providers, will phone and say, I've been reading the website, and how's Basil? And he even got mentioned on stage once at a conference, and it's all good fun. And I guess we want to add that little bit of humor, and he certainly does that. So great fun.
He does. Well, yeah, with 21,000 followers, I do actually have a link to Basil's Twitter account in the show notes as well for those that are curious, because it is.
You won't get any financial advice, but you'll get an update tweet every day. And the cats of Twitter have been, again, an amazing thing about lockdown is just people like having fun and not being so serious. And some people we all know don't have a support network, and I do think that social media can do that for an awful lot of people out there. And that's what I've really found, is that the generosity and a really positive aspect of social media through that account, which is nice, because sometimes my main account can get all a bit serious, and we can get all a bit down about things, so it's nice to have that light relief.
Yeah, fantastic. Gretchen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here. Any final words to listeners?
I just think that I guess my message is that if there is anyone out there listening who thinks financial planning for them, or they're a lady who maybe is in a role that she's just been thinking, I don't know, I want more from this, that just to try and take that step, reach out, speak to someone who can mentor you and help you, and just absorb as much information as you can so that you can better yourself. And I think that would be my final message, and just to stay positive and passionate about life.
Yes, that is perfect, Gretchen. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Innovating Advice Show. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so make sure to connect with me on LinkedIn and shoot me a thought or two. Link to my profile is right below. Stay safe, stay well, and I look forward to hearing from you.